Hi, Danville. Alan Schultz here, Chief of Police for the town, and we are 10-8 and in service, which means we're here to make people's lives better. And we do that by safeguarding the lives, rights, and property of people we serve. We had a good week relative when we talk about crime and traffic accidents, so we'll cover that. We're also going to continue to go over the All Hazards Guide. We're going to go over the annual report, which can be found on our Chief's page on the town's website. And we're going to cover a phishing scam. I'm going to show you in an email what to look for, and then some of the behaviors to avoid so that you're not a victim of one of those scams or thefts. First, if you can go to our link down in the description, you can download the FEMA All Hazards Checklist. A lot of information there. We're going over this checklist now. A lot of information on those events that really seldom occur, but when they do, they have a great deal of risk associated with it. You can see there's information on the power outage, what to do on those. Also, make sure you download the Wildfire Preparedness and Evacuation Guide and sign up for our community warning system from the Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff. This is our large-scale community alert system. In Danville, we use it in conjunction with Nixle, and it's how you're going to be alerted when there are hazards in the community, and then also when those hazards are clear. The Wildfire Preparedness Evacuation Guide has a lot of information on how you can be prepared for a disaster, specifically a wildfire. And then go ahead and go to the PG&E website. A lot of information there on how you can prepare your home and your family for PG&E outages and various emergencies that will affect power. Also, the big one there is really, if the power does go out, that's a good source of information for when it should come back. They put all their dispatch information out there. They put their times out there, so you'll have a lot of good information there. We have a really cool opportunity. Tonight is our last night of our Citizens Academy. So these are residents in town, maybe business owners that have come to the police department. We've opened our doors. They've had demonstrations and displays and lectures from investigators, from SWAT team members, from patrol officers, from some of our managers here. We've also done field trips. We actually had a really cool experience where we went out to the jail. And I have to say, we try to do this each time, but we had an inmate, someone who is being detained inside the jail, just talk to us about their experience there. And it was pretty compelling. Clearly we have a perception as a community of what it may be like in jail. And a lot of that may be formed from, TV and movies and things like that, maybe news reports. But this was the firsthand account from an inmate that was in jail about what their experience was. Very, very fascinating. It was very interesting. We've brought them out to the range, all of those things. Well, we've got a great experience. If that is a good experience for adults, what we do is we take that same experience and we kind of compress it and we make it age appropriate and we make it for kids. So if you've got someone either 11 to 13 or 14 to 18, just think of this as middle school or high school that might be interested in either a 1-day or a 4-day academy. We are going to be starting that come June. Registration is open. And it's a good experience. We have kids that go to this, they come back, and they say that they've had kind of an enlightened experience. And it's a good way for them to, one, explore potential career opportunities, not just the law enforcement side, but a lot of the other positions, the assistance, the technology, the stuff that police may use. They get a firsthand look of it, and they can see there's some potential, jobs or careers within there as well. Again, we also have our, and this is something that I think we're in our third year, and it's fairly innovative. And our sheriff puts on something called the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Junior Women's Academy, and it is geared to reach an audience that we may not typically reach in law enforcement, and to show them what it is that we do, how we serve the community, and then again also maybe spur some interest in a future law enforcement career. We realize that the Junior Police Academy that we hold here in Danville, our Sheriff's Junior Women's Academy, we realize those are plays 10 and 20 years down the road, but we believe it's important to invest at the starting line and really get people geared towards a career in law enforcement. So we're we're happy and eager to work on those opportunities. So please, if you know someone that may be interested, they can come down and join us. There is a link in the description for our junior academy here. And if you want information on the Sheriff's Junior Women's Academy, you know what I'll do? I'll update the link. So there'll be a link in there for the Contra Costa Sheriff's Junior Women's Academy as well. All right. This is a live show. So this is something that if you have a question or a comment, throw it in the chat. I'd be happy to either address any comments or answer any questions you have. And if it's something I can't answer during the show, I'd be happy to look it up and answer it later on during the chat. So please do that. We're going to get on to crime and traffic. As always, you can go to communitycrimeapp.com, and that's where you can look up for yourself what is happening in your neighborhood. You can set alerts to go directly to your email. You can do it several times a day as it's updated, or like I do, I just get a daily digest in the morning that tells me what's going on. And you can also get information on the Sexual Offender Registry site as well. All right, collisions, not a bad week, actually. 3 collisions in a week is a pretty good week. It's about half of our average. And we had 2 property collisions and 1 reported hit and run. On the 3rd, we had a non-injury hit and run collision on Camino Tasajara and Tasajara Ranch Road. On the 4th, we had a solo vehicle backing into a streetlight pole. There were no injuries, and that was downtown, the 100 block of Harts Avenue. On the 4th, we had a non-injury collision of a vehicle into a parked car on a States Drive near San Ramon Valley Boulevard. And one thing I want to point out is a lot of times we look at numbers and we'll say there's 300 collisions for 2023. But that doesn't tell you the whole story. You know, that's why we try to take the time on the show here and break down how many injury collisions, how many property damage only, the hit and runs. I try to give you some context as far as the hit and runs. So you can see a lot of the times that we have these injuries are actually very low speed, non-injury collisions. And the difference between an injury collision and a non-injury really is complaint of pain. So it's not that you have to have like a broken bone or have lost consciousness. It really is, if you have some neck pain, that's an injury collision for us. And so you can see most of the time the non-injury collisions far outnumber the injury collisions. And so this is kudos to all of you. You seem to be driving very well in town. And that isn't to say that as I walk home from work today, I'm not going to see people driving poorly. We all see it. But en masse, most of us are driving very, very well. And that is shown in the statistics. So kudos to all of you. All right, looks like this slide was not updated, so I'll actually just speak to it. Because we only had 2 thefts this week. And the 2 thefts were, one was a shoplift, and that was on the 400 block of Diablo Road, so over there by the Smart and Final. And the other was a theft from an automobile, and that was on the 1000 block of San Ramon Valley Boulevard. So that area is just south of our downtown area. So not much in the way of crime. And so again, you all are doing well. In those areas where I see a theft from an auto, I can tell you in some other areas that I've worked, we never would take just one theft from one car. It would be 5, 6, 7 thefts from vehicles. So it is, when I look at the stats and I look and I see that there's only 1 theft from an auto, what that tells me is that, yes, there was a motivated offender. There was someone here looking for your property to take your property. 2, it tells me that they were only able to find 1 car with property in it, because we've seen it on video before. I've displayed it here on the show. You'll actually see people go from car to car to car to car looking for items to steal. So again, kudos to all of you. If you take that property and you remove it, that's one of the 3 legs that's needed for crime to occur, and that means that all of you are doing a great job. All right, let's look at the arrest log. Arrest log for April 29th through May 5th. On April 28th, we arrested a juvenile for extortion, and the juvenile was released to their parent on a juvenile citation. On the 2nd, we booked a man in the Martinez jail for vandalizing a home on Campbell Place. On the 3rd, a woman was arrested for DUI and was released on a notice to appear after she was found driving on Diablo Road near Amigo Road. On the 5th, we arrested a man for DUI, and he was found driving on Glasgow Drive and Camino Tas, and he was released on a notice to appear. All right, I'm going to check the chat real quick. Looks like there's a couple of things. Uh, Carlo, I'm not quite sure what you're saying there. I think I got it, but so let me see. Maria says, "Why is it when the police pull out of the police department, they're speeding and going nowhere?" Maria, okay, so we're not supposed to speed unless there's red lights and siren on. So if you want, you can send me a private message. You can throw it there in the chat. If you give me a date and time, I'd be happy to look it up and see if there was some reason why they were going. I can tell you typically when officers do leave the station, they are leaving to actually go somewhere. They're not simply going nowhere. But I'd be happy to look it up specifically to see to see what's going on. So if you don't mind, please give me an update on that, and I'll make sure to look that up for you. And if you want, you can also call and talk to me direct, and I'd be happy to talk to you directly, and we can go. And Maria, so you're saying, but they're speeding. So again, without knowing specifically, and I'm certainly not trying to relieve the behavior or say or condone it and say that, hey, cops just get to speed and there's no check on that, because that isn't the case. We're supposed to follow the rules of the road like everyone else. We're not above the law. And that's why I'd be happy to specifically look up the case that you're talking about. But there are times, and believe it or not, and I do talk about the crime and the things that have happened here in town each week on the show. There are a lot of times where we may get called to fights. We may get called to alarm calls at homes. We may get called to violent crimes that are happening in town, or reports of violent crimes. And so the officers are going to leave, and they're going to leave fairly quickly to do that. So again, not excusing it, but please understand, as law enforcement, there are many times that we are actually responding to something that is a priority, that if someone were to be calling 911 asking for us to respond, they would want us pretty quickly. And if you stay tuned, I'm actually going to talk about response times later on when I talk about the annual report, so we can throw some context on that as well. So appreciate that, Maria. And Lou, I see you over on YouTube. Appreciate you, Lou. And truth be told, I met Lou earlier today, and this is my apology. I was late, and so I apologize for being late on that. All right, so we went over the arrest log. Let's talk about emails real quick. This is an area where we see a lot of fraud. And really what I'm talking about with emails, you can actually apply to phone calls. A lot of times you may get a call on your phone, and it's really the same thing. It's someone trying to create a sense of urgency to get personal information from you, right? And so typically the two things that we'll see, whether it's an email or a phone call, the two things is we're going to see someone pretending to be someone else. It could be someone in a position of authority. It could be the lottery. It could be a company offering you a new car that you just won. Something that gives credibility to the story that they're going to tell. And the second thing they're going to do is create a sense of urgency. The urgency may be get your son out of jail. The urgency may be hurry up and pay the taxes on your lottery winnings so you can get it, or we're going to give it to the next person. Could be anything. It could actually be just a fancy, like a kind of a salacious news story. Hear about how Ted was fired, right? And the gossip around the water cooler. People want to know that, and so they hurry to click. And so what I want to do is I want to show you a bad email, and then I want to show you some of the parts of it, and then I want to show you one of the techniques we use here at work to avoid being a victim of some of these frauds. So this is an email that I received. You see, I received it back on May 3rd, and it's from hr@danville.ca.gov. Well, here's the interesting thing. So at our work, we put that banner up that says, "Caution, this email was not sent from Danville staff." So if I receive an email that looks like it's internal, yet it has that banner on it, that should be the big red flag that, hey, something's wrong. It says in there that, we've added a new website, and it kind of talks about some things. And there's 2 clickable links in there, and that really is the gold mine. They want you to click on those links. And if we take a closer look, and I've kind of highlighted some spots here, in the last paragraph, it says, use your computer credentials to log in. Here is the link to the website. That is what they're trying to do. They're trying to get your computer credentials. They want your username and password. Then they can access it remotely, and they can have access to your system. Now, the 2 links, don't click on the links. If you have a question about it, like maybe this is from your bank, maybe this is from someone at work, go directly to the source. Our recommendation, like for this, I would simply pick my phone up, call our HR department and say, hey, can you tell me what's going on? Is this a legitimate email? If it's my bank, I know how to call my bank, right? I know how to directly get in contact. So if I get something from my bank saying, hey, there's potential fraud, there's this, there's that, I'm not necessarily going to click through the email. I'm going to go to my reliable method and I'm going to contact them that way. And that's what we recommend. So the big thing is look at the address. If you are at work, we would suggest really having a good, strong policy at work. One, especially that puts that banner up, because a lot of what we see in work situations is people will pretend to be a legitimate source at your work. Maybe a finance department. Hey, can you approve this transaction? Give me the account and routing numbers. Give me this. Give me your PIN. Those sort of things. And so we really recommend that banner. The other thing is, in our IT department, Matt Hull is one of our IT managers and our director, and he does really, really good. So you got to check this out. He actually sent me this report. Now, the average for people falling for these emails is actually in the double-digit percentages. It's pretty high. It's unbelievably high. Only because the people designing those emails are really, really good. So let's look at what your town does for this. So this is what a report looks like, and this is a report over just about a week. And if you look, our fish-prone percentage is 1.9%. So the 217 recipients, 211 emails were delivered. 2 had click-throughs and 2 opened the attachments. And just like any other training, the idea is we want people to fail in a training environment, use it as education, and not fail in the real environment. And I can tell you, I've worked a lot of places. Danville does an excellent job at keeping data secure, whether it's instituting good patch systems so that we can make sure that our network and our systems are secure, or by really attacking the human element, which usually tends to be the most vulnerable part. It's this guy that's the most vulnerable in these emails. We really do a good job at making sure it's safe. All right, let's move on to the annual report. And Maria, if you want to do me a favor, Maria, just send me a direct message with your phone number. I see that we're kind of chatting back and forth. I'll just shoot you a call as soon as we're off the air here, and we'll talk about the speeding cars. All right, so we're going to move on to the annual report. This can be found, there's a link in the description, can be found on the police chief's website, as well as past annual reports. And we're going to talk about emergency preparedness. We've been highlighting this for several weeks now. What we try to do in emergency preparedness, and we have an emergency preparedness manager who just spoke at the town council last night and gave a really pretty riveting presentation on the state of affairs and what we do to keep people safe. But in addition to that, we've got guides that we put out. We have information that we're putting out because we realize that if a disaster hits, if there is a problem, if the earthquake hits, we're limited in the way of resources. And really how we maximize that is having an educated population, having people that are prepared so that we don't have to do extraordinary measures for every single resident. We realize that there may be a resident that's trapped in a home. There may be residents that have unique circumstances outside of the basic needs. So we realize that we're going to be targeting those based on priority. Well, we would like to hope that if a major disaster were to hit Danville, that we would have all these prepared pockets within the community where people have downloaded these wildfire preparedness guides. People have downloaded these FEMA guides because we've asked them to. We've been pushing it out. We push it out to the newsletter. We push it out via the show, via the council meetings. And what we believe is that people will have a source of water that will last them several weeks. They'll have several weeks of food on hand. They'll have backup power of some sort. They'll have a radio. They'll have a cell phone. They'll have alternative methods of communication. And so we believe by keeping people prepared that we're going to be able to weather these storms a lot better. One of the things that we've instituted over the last couple of years is called Zonehaven. It's actually now called Genesis Protect. If there is a wildfire, what this will do is this will help us do two things. One, it will help us plot this on a map. And so you as a resident can see the approximate area of the wildfire. And I actually did a screen grab depicting a Texas fire because that was the only one I could find on the left there. So you can see what that looks like. And then you can see on the right is what a Danville zone looks like. And what that Danville zone does is it helps us determine how we may do evacuations, because it gives us traffic count, estimated traffic counts, persons counts for day and night, depending on, because at night we may have less in a business district, that sort of thing. So it gives us a lot in the way of planning. But we can shut one of those zones down and say, and let all know, hey, zone 1, Danville zone 1 is in an evacuation warning. It's in an evacuation order. And then we can describe what those are. So it provides us a very efficient way to get out information to all of you. Now, patrol and response time. This is one thing we present to the council. And Maria, to your point about why would officers ever speed, I get to report to the town council every year on priority 1 calls and what our response times are. And so a priority 1 call is that emergency. It's an urgent call for service where we are to respond without delay, often, not always, but often code 3, which means with lights and siren. I get to report out that Danville PD is doing a great job if that response time is below 5 minutes. Now, 5 minutes is an incredibly long time. If you're calling 911 because someone's breaking into your house, that's a long time. If you're calling 911 because your family member is in the middle of a fight, 5 minutes is a long time. So we realize that that's a long time. We do try to offset that. That's why we have beats. We have geographical areas throughout the town, and we try to position people within those beats so that they can respond. And that is kind of our response time. All right, check in the chat. Again, if you have questions or anything, go ahead and throw them in the chat. I do want to highlight one thing real quick. This is something you're going to see. We've been talking about e-bikes and off-highway motorcycles, essentially dirt bikes, and we've been talking about e-scooters and some of the laws. So we're really, if you've seen them, they're speeding all over town. I've seen them at the parks. I've seen them on the trail. I've seen them on the roadway. And there are very specific rules unique to those modes of travel, those bikes, those scooters. And so we're really working hard on the education side, but the bottom line is we're going to have to start doing more on the way of enforcement. So as much as we don't want to be the fun police and we don't want to do those things, 100% we are absolutely going to do them if it means to make people's lives better by protecting them and making sure that they're not hurting themselves. We've got some of these e-bikes that are, and I'm saying e-bikes generally, but really they're like off-highway motorcycles that are capable of going like 40 and 50 miles an hour right here on the road. And sometimes we'll see kids with just bike helmets on it. I mean, that is beyond unacceptable. So one of the things you might see is one of these signs. So on these signs, you're going to start seeing where it says no scooters on sidewalks, because the California Vehicle Code says there's absolutely no scooters on sidewalks. The idea is we're really trying to aim this towards parents, because we're hoping that the parents will get the education. They'll then help their kids follow the rules. Those e-scooters, the fast ones, they're not allowed on the sidewalk. I would say anywhere in town, but frankly, anywhere in the state. They have to be ridden in bike lanes. You have to have a permit or a driver's license to ride them. And so we're really going to start upping our enforcement in that area to make sure that people aren't being run over on the trail. We're getting a fair amount of reports of, frankly, just people behaving badly when it comes to the use of those vehicles. So again, don't want to be the fun police, but we're 100% going to start a fairly aggressive campaign at enforcing those. All right. Lou asked, when is the town bike rodeo? And Lou, that is this weekend. And what I'll do is, I don't have the exact date and time, but I just heard Lindsay talking about it in the hallway. So in the notes or in the chat, I'm going to put the date, time, location for the bike rodeo. All right, and we're going to move on. We're going to go to the FEMA All Hazards Guide. We're actually almost done, but let's look at some of the ones I just skipped. I skipped tornado. Hopefully we won't need that. And then I skipped tsunami and volcano. So we're going to move right into wildfire. Again, just hitting the wave tops. All I'm trying to do is pique your interest so that you can go and download this guide for yourself. And all I'm trying to do is show you that there is a great deal of value in this. If you just went over this with your family, if you did some of these things to get prepared, you would be tenfold ahead of your neighbor that nothing. So again, if you're in a wildfire, leave if you're told to do so. If you're trapped, call 911. Have some way of getting alerts. That's cell phone. We recommend the AM radio, the little crank radio too. And then have some way. We just recommend having some of those N95 masks. I remember before the pandemic, before people really knew what they were, I actually just had the masks that I got at Home Depot, N95s, just for doing painting and things like that. And we would know where those were, so we could make sure that we were safe. But leave if told to do so. It's kind of interesting. I think people are waiting to be told, hey, there's a fire, your street, your area is under an evacuation order. You must leave. If you're under an evacuation warning, people may say, okay, well, I'm a warning. I'm going to wait till the order. That's always going to be your individual call. My recommendation is when in doubt, get out, especially if you've got some sort of functional needs or special need that you may need to have additional time. I would say if there is a crisis or danger, you want to be further away than most. So that is the leave if told to do so. You need to use a little bit of judgment on that, have some personal discretion on what that means for you. All right, so Barbara Smith says, sorry, just tuned in. What is the e-bike and powered scooter policy on the Iron Horse Trail? So, Barbara, let me look that one up, because Iron Horse Trail is property of the East Bay Regional Parks District. They're the ones that do law enforcement on that. I'm up to speed and very familiar when it comes to our town streets and sidewalks and things like that. I know that they were a few years back experimenting with allowing e-bikes on the trail. Let me look up. I want to make sure I get you the right answer for the scooters and the off-highway motorcycles and such. Maria, I'm a little confused by your question. It says, is the Danville Police Department going to add more police officers when the resort is fully built? You have me interested, because I'm kind of curious what this resort is. I don't know which resort you're talking about. I'm not familiar with that we're building one, but if we are, I hope they've got like a swimming pool and some other cool stuff there. But if you could, let's do this. Just do me a favor. Just send me a direct message with your phone number. I'd be happy to talk with you offline on that. Maria, I'm kind of wondering if you're from a different area, because we don't have a casino going in. We're in Danville, California. I'm not sure if you're in a different, we have a lot of, in fact, if you come to our police department, we've got the patches of all the Danville, Kentucky, and Virginia and all those. So maybe a little different area. I'm not familiar with a casino coming in either. All right. Let me see. That is actually all we have. And I'm actually going to scram so I can go up to our last day at the Citizens Academy. But if you ever have questions, I know we do open this up because we do want to hear from you, and we want your comments and your feedback. And if you have questions, we want to answer them. And Lou, I owe you a date and a time for the bike rodeo. But you can always just reach out to me directly. I'm more than happy to speak with anyone. If you have something, I'm a phone call away, sometimes a little busier than normal, but I can usually get back to you pretty quick. All right, go ahead and go down to the link in the description. There is going to be a link for the community warning system. We do want you signing up for that, as well as Nixle. We also want you to download the Wildfire Preparedness and Evacuation Guide. Make sure you go to PG&E's website for information there, and download the FEMA All Hazards Checklist. And one more reminder, let's check out the Junior Academy. If you have someone that's middle school or high school aged, we'd want to make sure that they're in this academy. It's a lot of fun. A lot of it is interactive. We realize that kids don't like to just sit and stare at somebody that's talking, and so we do a lot of interactive things. It's a lot of fun. My son's gone through it. Some other sons and daughters of people that work here have gone through it, and they find it to be pretty interesting. So, all right, that looks like all I see here. So with that, we're 10-10, but we're always 10-8 and in service to all of you. Have a good night, Danville.